Hello and welcome to Global Morning, where we bring you all the amazing things happening in the world across every field. I am Anita Patrick, and of course, I'll be in this alone. I have my co-anchor with me in the studio in person, Mr. Kasim. How you doing?
Good morning, Anita. It's good to have you back on set. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Because you have had a great weekend, an amazing weekend so far.
Sure, so far, well, thank God. It's been good. Working, in between, but we'll find our balance in between.
Of course, we always find that balance, and it's very important.
Yes, we find our balance, of course. And we have a whole lot lined up for you today on Global Morning. Like we always do, we bring you the Inspire Review segment. We also bring you discussion segments. And we also have the aerobics, if time permits us. And we also bring you taste and texture, of course. You know what we bring to you each time when it comes to the food, so that you have your plan for the weekend. And of course, it's a Saturday. If you have anything lined up for you, like some people will tell you it's time to party. If you have a party to go to, please feel free. It's the weekend. Just let it down and have enough time to rest. But for those of us at work as this, please do what you can.
Most definitely, and we will be here on this side to make sure that you have a great one on the other side, whatever it is you're doing, if you're at the party or at home. Global TV will be here giving you those updates that you need to have a great day, basically.
All right, we'll have to quickly turn our focus as we dive into the newspaper review segment. So we'll bring you stories making the headways on the front page covers of the dailies. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. It is still Global Morning, and it's time for us to bring to you the newspaper review segment where we give you all the big headlines making rounds on the national dailies. We have quite a number of paper for review. We've got the Weekend Trust, we've got the Nation, we've got the Leadership newspaper, we've got the Guardian, and so many other newspapers. But to start off the review, we begin with the Weekend Leadership newspaper, and the Weekend Leadership newspaper has got quite a number of stories, but we'll start with the big one here. It says consensus crumbles, and there's a kicker here. It says more APC rebels say no, and it has got one rider, and the rider says party may be forced to conduct primaries in Yobe, Benue, Nasarawa, other states. This is all about the 2027 permutations and all the happenings, and details of this particular story you find on page 4 of the Weekend Leadership newspaper. And of course, above that particular story, we've got another one that says doctoral degree holders hail ban on the use of doctor prefix by honorary recipients. And that's one story that has dominated headlines this past week, and this is one that the people who have got PhD are now saying it's a good one. So we'll see how that story eventually pans out. Let's go above that story. You see one that says Nigeria's most influential newspaper. Above that nameplate, basically, let's go above the nameplate, and you see a story that says Nigerian pilgrims begin movement from Medina to Mecca, and that is talking about the 2026 pilgrimage, which is set to commence in earnest, basically in just a few weeks from now. And that's one story making the rounds. And away from that story, by the right-hand corner, you see a story that talks about politics. It says ADC alleges judicial manipulation as court adjourns leadership suit indefinitely. And this story details you find on page 1 of the Weekend Leadership newspaper.
Okay, a lot of things happening with the build-up to 2027 elections. We've seen the court cases with the ADC, and of course, like we always
see, defections. We've seen now the new party,
and also we also have the primaries. Very very close to all of them, and then they're trying to see how they can resolve all of that.
One issue that has dominated is the issue of consensus. We've seen in states like Gombe State where one of the contestants is saying he doesn't feel like taking a consensus, like the party saying this is the person we want without a primary election. That has been gaining a lot of controversies, and people have said, why choose a consensus candidate when you are supposed to give us a level playing field? If it's a democracy, everybody should be given equal opportunity by going to the primaries, and then the delegates would select or elect whatever it is they feel is the best candidate. So it's quite an interesting time, and we look forward to seeing how it pans out ahead of 2027.
Well, while 2027 is building up all of that, we still have a bit of a concern that, we hope that in the long run, is always the tension we have in an election year. But let's move away from election matters and tell you by the left-hand corner there of the weekend, leadership weekend, it says Nigerian pilgrims begin movement from Medina to Mecca. That story that you can find on page 4, right, or page 6 rather. Let's come down to a bit of the story below the lead story and the picture story there, where you see that looks like the shipment of things of the picture story. But let's tell you some stories happening below that. We have where it says building houses for judges doesn't mean judicial interference. That's Wike speaking there on the issue of Wike.
People have already said, why would you build houses for judges? Because they feel it is, like he said, he's saying the opposite, but people have said it is political interference because the judges are supposed to be neutral, and even though the government, of course, is supposed to also care for their welfare, but people are saying, where do we find the balance in, okay, I give you something, and of course, we know how we see it has become transactional, give and take. So if I give you these houses, what do I expect in return? So those are questions that have been dominating. But Wike here is saying
but one thing we see from the perspective of infrastructural development across the FCT, this is the capital of Nigeria, is to ensure that you give priority. In my thinking is that you ensure that there are basic things. The 3 ARM zones have the executive have theirs. The legislators have their own complex. We need to know they have their complex. And now for the judges, they have their complex. I think he's seen it from that perspective.
And of course, one other perspective which reinforces this one is the fact that if you adequately take care of these judges, then they might not need to take bribe, like we've said. So if they are adequately compensated, people have said it will help them even be much more independent. So there are two sides to this.
I'm not even looking at compensation. I'm seeing as the needed infrastructure that's supposed to be given to, like I said, these are 3 ARM zones, but wherever it is, we'll find out. Of course, with the build election, there's always concerns raised, and all that. So let's move away from that story and tell you the story just beside that story. How it says, troops kill terrorists, seize weapons in Zamfara. That story is on page 15.
Another unpleasant story here. This one is quite the opposite because troops did that and it's a good one. But this one says, gunmen kill 3 pregnant women, 11 orders in fresh Plateau attack. And that's not a pleasant story. Details you find on page 25 of the weekend leadership newspaper.
Well, we just pray for the families of these ones who've lost their lives to the gunman attack. Well, just beside that story there, we have where it says, why wives outlive husbands, medical doctors. Speaking that, I think we need to pick up that paper and that's where something and find out what the medical doctor is saying. What are women doing differently that they seem to outlive the men?
Well, someone has said the men put themselves in more danger way to protect the women, and that's why the women outlive them. Well, of course, this is a particular headline that seems interesting, and I would like to read it up and see what the experts are saying.
Okay, well, we'll find out when you pick up a copy of that paper. Well, that's the much we can take with the leadership weekend paper. Let's quickly turn our focus and look at what the Nation newspaper looks like. The Nation newspaper has a lot of stories on the front page cover of this, but let's see with the lead story there where it talks about the nomination battles. It says nomination battles hot up in APC ADC. Well, we have riders that says APC panel screens Sani, Sharif, Alia, Nwufuru, others. We also have where it says Amechi, Hayatuddin, and PIC ADC presidential nomination forms. We also have another one that says NDC is set for national convention in Abuja today. We've had the conventions across different but NDC is set. NDC seems to be really coming up really strong.
Yeah, it seems to be gaining some ground.
With the
Obi and Kwankwaso joining the party, they seem to have gathered some weight. Even in the National Assembly, I've seen some defections. Members have joined the party. So 2027 is seemingly very
interesting election year. We'll see. That story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And of course, above the nameplates, we have other stories which also leads.
By the left-hand corner, you see a story that says Jonathan folds suit, querying his eligibility to contest election. With the writer that says, Judge schedules hearing for May 11. Details of this story you find on page 2 of the Nation's newspaper.
Well, like we said, it's going to be an interesting year for 2027. We look forward to seeing how everything pans out in the long run. But just beside that, on the right-hand corner there of that story, we have a story that says, PDP, Wike loyalists reaffirm control over Wadata Plaza, two other structures, and the writer that says party dismisses CTC of Supreme Court judgment as fake. And that story is on page 6 of the Nation newspaper.
And of course, let's come below the big story. By the left-hand corner, you see a story that says ADC as the kicker. Nafiu Balagombe seeks transfer of case against Mark Aregbe-Shola, with details on page 4 of the Nation's newspaper. And away from that story, a bit of an unpleasant story. Just below it, it says gunmen kill 13, injures scores in fresh plateau attack. It's a story we've seen in the previous newspaper. Yeah,
just below that story there, we have a picture of the governor of Imo State there, and then right up below it says Tinubu wades into Progressive Governors Forum coup, with the writer that says APC governors reaffirm confidence in Uzodinma. And that's the Imo State governor there. And then, of course, you can see where he's been surrounded
with governors of the APC forum. Of
yes.
Course.
And also, away from that, we still have a story that talks about a woman childless for 14 years dies after delivering. Oh my God, quintuplets.
I saw that story and I was really happy for her. I didn't know she eventually passed on, and it's a sad one. After 14 long years, and she gave birth to 5 beautiful babies, but she lost her life in the process. And we hope the family, especially the husband and all her loved ones, bear the fortitude of this very great loss, actually.
That's really deep. And then we have support coming for the family, where it says Ayetuwa pledges support for family, donates money, and that story is on page 3. It's really heartbreaking. I really felt this one, it really got to me. I can imagine, it's a whole lot. You kept waiting for the points where you need to celebrate, and then the joy comes in, but the joy is cut short, where you who's supposed to be alive to care for those kids. But we can't question
the creator. He knows best. So we just, like we said, hoping the family will take the fortitude, and the government will also support those children and the family. And I think that's about the much we can take from the Nation's newspaper. It's time for us to move on
to the Saturday Telegraph newspaper. Saturday Telegraph newspaper has its own lead story, and this comes with the same story we just took over, but this is the lead story for the Saturday Telegraph. It says confusion in Progressive Governors Forum as Uzodinma Mba lead faction. That's with the writer that says 18 governors pass vote of confidence in Imo governor, and that story is on page 2. So that already where the picture of governors surrounding Uzodinma, they're saying we believe in him and we know he can still handle the affairs.
Definitely. Below that story, you see a story that says alleged coup bordering national security. Now it says accused officers served charges, summary of evidence, and that is investigation. The trials begin May 12th, and that story is on page 2 of the Saturday Telegraph newspaper. Okay,
so let's deal with the papers, the stories below before we get back above the nameplates there. And just beside that, we have a story that says 35 million candidates wrote NECO exams in 25 years. That story is on page 4.
Bit of education. Let's go outside Nigeria and tell you that the story says Middle East conflict as the kicker. Oil prices hit $104.07. And this particular story, you find details on page 8 of the Saturday Telegraph newspaper. And that is bordering on the Middle East conflict, of course. And below that story, Plateau carnage, 12 killed in fresh attack. Pregnant women among victims. Details on page 6 of the Saturday Telegraph newspaper. And if you look above, Anita.
Yeah, we have a story there that talks about NLC. NLC raises, that's on the right-hand corner there, it says NLC raises concerns over xenophobic attacks in South Africa. This is one too many. We've had too many to deal with xenophobic attacks coming in on every time. I think it's time for Africans to understand
it's not a pleasant one, because if Africa as a continent intends to develop, every nation must be a contributor in that particular pursuit of development. And South Africa is supposed to be one of the countries channeling that cause, because it's one of the largest economies on the continent. So rather than seeing other Africans as their brothers, which we are, they are looking at other people as their foes, and that's not a pleasant one. But I like the fact that Nigeria and other countries have taken action. I remember the federal government summoned the South African ambassador, and they've talked about how they could find a lasting solution to this particular issue.
Well, this is a call from the NLC as well, because the writer here says, calls killings crisis for entire African working class, and then demands action from COSATU, that's to speak on this issue and find a lasting solution to this. And that story is on page 5 of the Saturday Telegraph newspaper.
And the last story on this particular newspaper is by the left-hand corner. It says, Ade Melogun's daughter, the blood of my dad, others killed in first, second coups, crying for justice. And the writer here says, recalls how a supposed uncle led soldiers that killed her parents. And this story, you find details on page 13 of the Saturday Telegraph newspaper.
Well, that's the much we can take with the Saturday Telegraph newspaper, where it has all those stories lined up for you. Let's quickly take our next paper.
And of course, the next paper for review is the Guardian newspaper. The weekend edition of the Guardian newspaper is our next paper for review. And this begins with an interesting picture story that says, tampering with food expiry dates sparks outrage. Details on pages 8 and 9. And this is one that is of public concern to everyone, because we all consume these packaged foods, and if expiry dates are tampered with, then what does that portend for our health as people who consume these products on a daily basis?
You know, there's one concern about I remember a time where I went for something that had to do with the ECOWAS region, that had to talk about quality and all that, and that was one thing we're looking out for, the processes and all that across our standardization, who checks, who looks at all of those things, because we have our agencies here, NAFDAC, SON, and all the likes, who are supposed to checkmate all of these things. But of course, we have people who also want quick money at the detriment of people's lives. I think this focuses on that, where you need to really pay attention. Like I always tell people, yes, we play our own safety mindset to check these things. But I think it's high time we have like a scanner, or what they call it now, a barcode, where you could sign and clearly see if this. I think we could put that into perspective.
That's actually one that would
because if we have people who have, for me, I see this as dead conscience. If you're tampering with food expiry dates, that means you don't have a conscience.
Because you don't care if people lose their lives. All you care about is profiteering. And that is not a pleasant one, because we need to be our brother's keepers. And then another aspect people have talked about is how, because of how hard life has become, some people actually even see these dates, but they buy them because they seem to be cheaper. So it's a whole lot, but this particular one is...
It's tampering for me. It's one people want to say, okay, I can afford, because I know malls or shopping centers, when something is quite getting to the time, they put that for sales, for sales. So you can consume before the expiry date, which comes out. But all that story is on page 8 and 9. Pick up a copy and find out how this is actually playing out, and how you need to stay safe and consume safely as well. Well, let's go above the nameplates there. We have story talking about politics. We have second term governors and search for relevance post 2027 election, and that story is on page 28, and that story carries a picture of Bauchi State Governor and Oyo State there. Well, beside that, we have other stories there. on the left-hand side.
Of course, on the left-hand side, you see a story that says, Spotlight, Ruben Fasoranti, a centenary song for the last centennial of the Awolowo phenomenon era. That's the statesman who was a contemporary of Awolowo, and 100 years is a big one. So away from that particular story, let's come down below the picture story, and you see a story by the left-hand corner that says, fresh trouble for ADC as court adjourns Gombe suit against MAC indefinitely. Details you find on page 2 of the Guardian weekend newspaper.
Well, that's it. Below the picture story there that talks about the tampering of food, there it says, fresh trouble for ADC as court adjourns Gombe suit against MAC indefinitely. Of course, we saw that story earlier across other paper, and that story is on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. And
of course,
also,
another story in the middle here says, Jonathan moves to quash suit seeking to bar him from 2027 presidential contest, with details on page 3 of the Guardian weekend newspaper. And
just beside that, since we have a lot of cases that has to do with court cases and the parties and pressure on 27, but let's talk about our security matters. Here it talks about insecurity, military aware of anxieties, expectations of Nigerians, and that's coming from DH, that's the Defense Headquarters, and that story is on page 36 of the weekend Guardian paper.
We know they are aware, and of course we hope to see results. And below that story, I think the last story we're taking on this particular newspaper, it says, celebrating a journalist, Abiodun Adeniyi, as Vice Chancellor. That's a bit of human angle story with details on page 2 of the Guardian weekend newspaper. And that's the last story
on that particular paper. Well, let's also turn our focus and look at the Saturday Vanguard. The Saturday Vanguard has its own story that moves away from what we heard about the parties there with the lead here. The lead story still talks about Nigerians eating themselves to death. Experts warning. That story is on page 10. But let's tell you the rider that comes with it. It says, least dangers in grains preserved with pesticides. How do you say it? My God. And another one that says, chemicals in food, a silent killer. NAFDAC speaking on that. We also have what it says, diet shaped linked to rising cancer and diabetes. We also have organ failure. Professor Faso Mede speaking there.
You know, there's a saying that you are what you eat, and what they're telling us is we have to be very wary of the things we consume. And we're seeing pesticide continuously being used to preserve food. It's a common practice, but it's not a pleasant one. And we can see the authorities saying, telling us about the adverse effect it has on our health. And we just hope they can be able to diversify, because we've heard issues of using organic fertilizers that are safer, even though they might be more expensive, but it's still better than using something that would be harmful to the consumers. Because what's the essence of bringing our food out there that is not safe for consumption? It's not a pleasant one.
This is a bit of a human mindset, so like a wake-up call for me. It's time for Nigerians to open up their eyes and not eat themselves to death, like the experts are saying there. Well, let's move away from that story. The picture story, beside the talk by Oluwa there, they have a story that talks about the xenophobic attack, where it talks about xenophobic violence threatens regional stability as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Botswana, others join Nigeria on high alert. And that story is on page 8.
And you know, this particular thing, I would like to say one thing about it. One thing that's ironic for me is the fact that South Africa's independence was largely fought for by other African countries, Nigeria namely. These are the people who helped you become free, and then you turn against them. It's not a pleasant one. And I hope they do better, basically.
All right, we hope they do better, and we also hope that too many people don't then tend to lose their lives in the course of this. Well, away from that, beside that particular story, very close to it, there you have another story that talks about why does Obi avoid party primaries. We have critics, analysts differ. That story there also comes with the one that says, that's a writer that says, who owns NDC? Fear of moles rocking party spreads. That story is on page 23.
Just below that story, still talking politics, it says 2027 presidency as the kicker. Suit challenging my eligibility, frivolous, vexatious, and that is ex-president Goodluck Jonathan speaking there. And this particular story details you find on page 28 of the Saturday Vanguard newspaper, that is. And away from that story, a bit of still staying with politics by the left-hand corner. It says 2027 parties rush to beat INEC's deadline. A whole lot of riders here. The first one says APC begins screening of aspirants. NDC, SDP hold national convention today. And the last right, LP Boots Party orders sell form, fix conventions and primaries. All these stories, details you find on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper.
Let's talk a bit of Home Affairs. Before Home Affairs, let's go above the nameplate there. We have a lot of stories there. Let's go to Delta on the right-hand corner there, where it says Delta tensions as Dafio Nune Omog Agege draw battle line for Delta Central Senatorial ticket. Omog Agege was there in the 9th Assembly.
Most definitely.
And then there's an tension now because someone else also wanted the ticket as well, and he seemed to want to come back again.
Of course, you know how it is. You never want to just say quitting, so they always would want to come back there. So let's see who the best man for Delta district.
The Central. Yes. Well, that story is on page 12, and then just beside that story there, we see, look at Cross River. There says Cross River awaits justice on disputed oil wells. The oil wells there in Cross River is really having its own tension, disputes back and forth.
And you know, of course, Cross River borders Akwa Ibom, so there's also questions of who owns this oil well. So the stories are basically what are making the back and forth with this particular headline. Away from this one, by the left-hand corner, you see a story that says APC governors divided over removal of Ozodimma as PGF chairman, and has quite a number of riders. One says presidency intervenes, 18 governors pass vote of confidence on him, and other riders there. But away from that story, another story you see below that one says Enugu FR, that's Father George Adimike, priest who builds palaces for strangers. Interesting one on page 5.
Well, let's come down to a bit of I think we can pass that. Let's quickly turn our focus to other people because that's the size of what we can take. Let's quickly look at the Saturday Tribune newspaper and see what it has differently from other papers. Saturday Tribune, a lot of stories here across different sectors and party politics and all of that, and insecurity. But let's start with the lead story that says, why I'm asking courts to deregister NDC. Ada promoter. They also have speaks on relationship with Obi Kwankwaso. That story is on page 8 and 25 of the Saturday Tribune. Okay. You see,
when they moved parties, people were saying, I hope you're joining a party that doesn't have any baggage. But we all know that every party has one or two issues. So this is now another saying that this party, that's the NDC, has issues with registration and they're writing for the registration of the party. So if that happens again, what's the next line of movement for Obi and
they keep moving.
They keep moving on to
I'm worried.
But then what does that do for stability and the credibility of our opposition ahead of 2027?
Well, that's like you said, a lot of questions being asked, and when you keep moving across party lines, what happens when you stay in the country to lead the country? How would you keep flying, or would you keep moving?
Because people have said, okay, we have a bit of challenge or two, rather than staying and fixing these challenges.
You keep moving, you keep running.
What will happen if you are elected
you're not the president of the country,
and then you're confronted with a myriad of challenges? What then happens? Well,
you keep running.
I have to stay and face your problem.
There's something that has to do with stability, commitment, and being sacrificing and paying the price. So I don't know, but from his perspective, he feels he'll keep moving until he gets the opportunity of where suits what he sees as a vision to lead Nigeria. But Nigerians are also weighing a lot of things, following the movements, following the train of things, how things are happening, and also there are alignments and realignments of politicians, and questions have been asked: is it of interest,
or is it of national interest?
You know, so all of these are questions.
Quite a number of questions.
But like we said, and we're looking forward to 2027. I'm counting down seriously because I like election years. You know, every year there is an election year. There's always things that has to do with reference to history, you know, to find out what really happened, encounters, you know, accountability of words of the mouth.
Of course, what you had said before, and then this is now, are you matching up those words with action?
So basically, all of those are things that will come to bear as we get set for 2027. Really.
Very interesting times, and I look forward to it, just like you said. Let's go above the nameplate by the left-hand corner. You see a story that says Sultan commissions Osogbo Central Mosque HABs on proper maintenance, with details on page 15. And by the right hand corner, the story here says Awo's 39th memorial anniversary patronal service holds today. Details on page 3 of the Saturday Tribune newspaper. And let's go below below, basically, there's a story here on health that says no hantavirus case recorded in Nigeria amidst global cruise ship cluster. And that is the NCDC speaking. That's a pleasant one, at least. Hantavirus is not here in Nigeria. I will hope it doesn't even get.
No, we're not looking forward to such kind of things. Most because we dealt with the COVID and it wasn't a good one at that time.
Rather the entire country, the entire world.
The whole world. And we don't want Nigeria. We've seen the hantavirus here, where the World Health person was speaking about it.
Even though he said, of course, it's not as great a danger as COVID-19
is. It shouldn't even be. We're not praying for it.
But of course, the important thing is to be very proactive. So that's why even the NSCDC, the fact that it's not here doesn't mean they should rest on their
because we have travelers, we have tourists, people coming in for business as well.
Definitely.
So we need to be very alert
and responsive and ready for whatever.
Yeah, I like that. Well, all the stories below I said that we see are just stories we've seen across all the papers as well. The ADC crisis, of course, Nafiu Bala Gombe asks court to transfer suit against Mark, others to another judge. Well, we also have the writer that says court adjourns hearing indefinitely. Indefinite adjournment contradicts Supreme Court ruling. ADC speaking. ADC is trying to ensure that they get what they feel is rightly theirs. With the build up to the deadline of INEC for primaries and all of that coming to play. And then below the nameplate there, it says a bit of the human animal side. My wife deserted me for 4 months after we got married. To prostitution abroad. Story on page 12
and 21.
Well, there's always the two sides to the story. I like to find out the other side of the story when it comes to things like this. Let's try not be judgmental, find a balance, and get what really went wrong. Okay, so that's it on this particular paper. Let's quickly turn our focus and look at other stories happening with the This Day newspaper. This Day newspaper has its lead stories lined up as well. Let's start with the business part of it. The lead story above the nameplate, not down there. Above the nameplate says in audited CBN released accounts. First hold core post industry's highest impairment at 826 billion naira, 78% profit slump. And we have the writer that says bank releases unaudited first quarter 2026 management accounts to douse concerns. Well, that story is there for you to pick up a copy and find out what the CBN is really doing.
Of course, when it comes to the financial market and all of that, and all those things, of course, we know has an impact on the economy. So it's something we should all be interested in. But away from that story, let's go below that story. You see a story that says CTC reveals how Wiki-led faction lost out in PDP leadership tussle. This particular story, you find details on page 7 of the This Day newspaper. Well, let's go below the nameplate and tell you the big story here.
Still stay with party politics and all that. We have the ADC in Delima as court adjourned suits against Mark-led leadership Senadai. Well, we've seen that. I've watched all papers, of course, and it is giving you reasons why. I don't want to go into details of the writer because we have that across all papers. Let's also come down from that story. We have a story that talks about the APC as well. APC boasts 2027 war chest with over 4.45 billion naira from sale of forms as opposition fragments. And break down my tone.
So that the APC is not resting on they are the ruling party, but they are still getting themselves very ready in terms of the election. With
so there's a whole lot of challenges to see.
So the oppositions, they have got a lot of challenge.
Oh my God. Like I said, the NDC is also getting momentum, just like we mentioned. So the APC is not even trying to play across any opportunity. They want to ensure that they meet up with every challenge.
Criteria and everything, whether it is the financial aspect.
Whatever you're going to bring out from, we're ready for you. Well, let's see the writer that says, cracks emerge in party's governors forum. Uzodinma fights back with backing of 18 governors. And then the writer that says, party begins screening of governorship, National Assembly aspirants. Story on page 5 of this day newspaper.
And of course, there is still a picture story. It says 18 of the 31 governors stands with Uzodinma in the split page. 20 had earlier removed him on Thursday. Interesting. So we have got 20, we've got 18. Well, let's see how that pans out. And I hope it just works for the betterment of the country, not just the...
And they call it the Progressive Governors Forum. Is
so let's see
how progressive this progress is going to...
We hope it gets
into that. Well, that's it. This particular paper. Let's quickly turn to the Weekend Trust, where I like to look at the infographics and all that. But this time around, it comes in a different pattern. That's the Weekend Trust newspaper. It talks about the lead story here leads and says, inside the ACF Civil War. That's the Weekend Trust newspaper there. It says inside the ACF Civil War. That's what it starts with the story. And then we have this Arewa Consultative Forum.
That's the ACF.
The ACF. They are speaking about that, where it shows very bold and strong. They're talking about where all hands are pulling out to speak on the issue around the Arewa Consultative Forum. I'm trying to get that out.
Of course, within every organization, we always have factions. We have split decisions and split opinions. So this is not different with the ACF. So we hope to see that they find a common ground and they are united, because how would you fight for your region if you are not able to even manage whatever crisis that you have internally? So we hope the ACF is able to go past this civil war, like it's been termed in this particular paper, and unite for the betterment of the region.
Can you see the grip of the hands holding this?
Trying to pull
from all sides. If you keep pulling and keep stretching, it doesn't end up well, because like we always say, when you have unity, you stand as one house. But when you have disruptions, when you have divided attention, it will end up in destruction. Look at what we have here. You see the pool of let me call this their flag or their symbol.
Of course, it's a symbol of
the Arewa group, basically. So it has also shown a breakage from what we have. There's a breakage of what it's saying there, that if you have such confusion, distortion, or different interests, not having one interest of heart, you would definitely always have that kind of mindset play out.
And how can you fight for your own self or your people with a division? It's not a possibility. So like we said, we hope they are able to go past this and unite for the benefit of their region. Let's move away from that story and take you above the picture story by the left-hand corner. It says, governors, lawmakers battle for Senate seats. We know quite a number of them. We saw Onwagege in the previous newspaper and all of those people battling for Senate and other positions ahead of 2027. And still saying in 2027, the middle story here says 2027 as the kicker. Turaki-led PDP visits Jonathan. Details on page 12.
Well, a lot of stories. Let's just speak as much as we can. We have also why APC governors are moving against Uzodinma. We saw that across other papers. Let's come down below the story there, that's the picture story there, where it says not Huru after fleeing insurgents. The story of teenage IDP. That story is on page 7. That's talking about the IDP camps, internally displaced persons, and the challenges they have, fleeing from insurgents and having to live in a place where it becomes a home by force.
And those places also have their challenges. We see young people, because of the trauma they had faced. Some of them turned into drugs. Some of the ladies having some other challenges that they face, and it's more like you're running from there and you're still not having the solution yet. But we hope it becomes Uhuru and they're able to go past this, and then we see them reuniting to their ancestral homes when they've safety has been returned to those places and they're able to go back to their ancestral homes.
Okay, so let's look at the other story there that says 2 retired IGPs top call in 2027 race.
That we've seen some of the previous IGPs and
also come out to also contest.
Yes, one of them I know, and the picture there is one that is vying for the governorship in Nasarawa State, and quite a number of them also. So maybe since they have experience, they feel they are also able to tackle, especially the insecurity challenges.
But that's one major area Nigeria actually needs serious attention. So if we get them to win, why not?
Why
it's
not?
A plus.
If it's going to bring the solution, certainly
No,
people will be happy with that.
That should be
because it's a conditional statement.
Yes, we hope it gets to that point. If they win and they find a solution, that's a plus to the community or the states, wherever they would tend to win the election. Well, that's the size of it from the Weekend Trust. Let's quickly turn our focus to Saturday Independent newspaper. Saturday Independent newspaper has its own lead story. I like the way this one comes in. Every picture has its own story beside it.
Yes.
Talking about the issues around that particular. Well, let's start with the lead story where it talks about the security matters. What we're reading, it talks about investigation, and it says fear grips Gowon Estates residents as drug trade booms despite police presence. Yeah, that's what we can imagine. We still have drugs standing to, and the business doing very fine.
That's very audacious for them, and we have police presence there, but you are still doing that. That shows you
it
how.
It has a lot of questions. It has a lot of comments to what that should that concern is, and why it should be in that perspective.
Most definitely.
Wondering why that is happening. But we have other stories also.
But of course, we know the police would not rest on their laurels, and they'll try to make sure that they are able to tackle this. Hopefully, that happens. And of course, other stories will go that's above the nameplate story by the left-hand corner. The story here says, beyond cosmetic governance, why I'm most prepared candidate for Ogodi House. That's a candidate they're speaking. That particular story you find on page 20, and then by your right-hand corner, you see a picture story of the former Vice President Atiku. It says, Atiku demands immediate suspension of NNPCL, Chinese entities refinery deal, and this particular story we find on page 5. We know, of course, the federal government is saying that they intend to revamp our local refineries by striking this deal with the Chinese company, but Atiku is saying he doesn't think it's a good move. So that is one of.
Let me not say what's on my mouth. On my lips right now, on my mind right now. Opinion. Well, everyone has its own opinion to things. All we're looking for is solution, and in getting the needed results where it will ease the burden on Nigerians in terms of stress.
Because it's a huge burden.
Yes,
honestly.
So let's go beside that story there. Page 20 it says, beyond cosmetic governance, why I'm the most prepared candidates for Agodi House. That's Sharafuddin Ali speaking. That's Senator Sharafuddin speaking there on page 20 of the Saturday Independent newspaper.
And of course, below that story, you see below the big story. Actually, it says Obi's defection won't make us lose focus. ADC leaders speaking. And details you find on page 31.
This feels like a child crying. But anyway, Obi, I had this conversation on this. I was asking, as he moves, as he leaves people, he has loyalists, he has people he's fitting and all that. So, does his movement? I was asking, does his movement really affect? Because let's look at an instance with the 2023 general election. We saw the wave of votes.
They can't say.
So I'm asking, can that be the same? Can that be the same thing with 2027, with the fact that he's been moving from party to party,
Well, the Labour Party has been there a very long time. It's one of the oldest parties in the country. But Obi, as a person, with the obedient movement, even though people have come out to say he was not the originator of that movement, and they've even expelled him from the movement.
So why would he play his name and he was calling from the movement?
I saw him. He said he was actually Obey. Okay. But when they adopted him as a person who they feel would be liked by the people, they now changed the E to the I. So what they're saying is the party is going to be there even Obi, with or without Obi, but we know, of course, Obi was one that actually shook the ground in 2023 elections.
That's what I'm saying. With this movement, what's going to look like for 2027?
So let's see how if he goes out for them, whether they will be able to
meet up with it or not. Well, let's move on to other stories there and tell you what the other stories they are saying. Talking about the xenophobic attack, we have the renewed xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Nigerians demand action. Economic fix, and that story is on page 30. We'll still have the president there of South Africa, to speak, calling his attention really on this. I'm sure he's had a lot of pressure from across Africa, and I can imagine what it's like for him at this point in time.
Just call the people to order. Tell them, let everyone leave and let's leave. Do your bits. Let foreigners do their bits, because South Africans.
There's no country who have foreigners.
Exactly. South Africans are here in Nigeria, and we don't see them getting harassed. They're all across other African countries. They're living in freedom. So why can't you allow other people that same luxury or privilege that you've also
because for me that's unity, that's love across the Africa space. But let's also go over this, how I carried the bank at Anthony name into Nollywood. That's for me, bank Anthony, that's a bit of entertainment from Nollywood angle. But let's come down a bit to the name, the bottom plate there. It says Lagos Assembly moves to harmonize taxes and levy collection by unions. Orders story on page 6.
And just above that story, even though we've seen it before, it says rumored removal. Uzodinma survives political tremor as APC governors declare unity. Details you find on page 3 of the Saturday Independent newspaper. And I think that's the last story on the Saturday Independent.
So we'll quickly turn our focus to the Blueprints weekend. For the Blueprints newspaper has its own weekend story that leads boldly. There it says how surge in attacks on telecoms infrastructure slows digital economy growth. Expert. This is a bit different from across all papers we've seen. So we've seen that the telecoms also has its own challenge as well, because of course we've seen that across.
Because we all know how difficult it is to connect to the internet and all of that, and it's because of this vandalism. And vandalism for me is a very big challenge in Nigeria, not only in the telecom sector, but this of course is the telecom sector, but we've seen it across the transport sector, where rail lines are being vandalized and those things have caused accidents. So why can't we just allow infrastructure be? We blame the government that they don't give us enough. Exactly, because we blame them that they don't give us enough infrastructure, and the little they have, we go and vandalize. We see the same thing with electricity, the poles and the solar lights on the streets. People go take off those things. Why do we keep on doing that? Are we our own problem? Okay, so let's see the writer that gives the breakdown from what the experts are saying. It says 656 assets, 152 generators, 504 batteries stolen in 2025. That's the case study there. And we also have the other writer that says markets for stolen telecom equipment fueling crisis. Ayak DK speaking there. We also have another writer that says vandalism should attract penalties commensurate with economic sabotage. I think I actually another writer that says some mass owners culpable. That's Dowda speaking, and these stories are all on page 8 and 9. If you look at this is a whole lot. That's a huge number. Like writer said, Aniti, it says markets for stolen telecoms equipment fueling crisis, which means there is a ready market. Yes, there's a market, but who are buying? Exactly. That's the question that we ask. Until we deal with the top, we cannot blame the errand boys who go pick it and come to sell. Even with the rail, when they pick rails, they think it's scrap, but we know people who buy these things for very huge amounts. Who are these people? These are things that the government should ask. If we really intend to bring an end to vandalism, then these are the things that we have to be very attentive towards, finding solutions, basically. Okay, we hope that solution comes in the long run, and pick up that story on page 8 and 9 of the Blueprints weekend. Well, just beside that story there, we have the president's picture, and it says, FG corrects wrong use of Tinubu's appellation. That story is on page 7. Okay. And of course, let's go back to the middle, but just beside the picture story of the electricity, it says AFDB approves $61 million to boost women-led businesses in Nigeria. I know someone who's going to be happy with that story. The details you find on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. It's a good one for gender equity and all of that. Okay, so still sticking to that, we have a bit of still business. Local equities close on positive notes.
gain 3.236 trillion naira, and that story is on page 10 of the blueprint.
On a bit of sports, it says Olympian to NSC, NFF, Super Falcons must not miss 2028.
Yeah, we mustn't at all.
Of course.
That's the story on page 32 there. And away from sports, there it says FHC, that's Federal High Court Chief Judge, approves 14 new judges postings, and that story is on page 10 of that paper.
I think the last story, which is the bottom story here, says indecent dressing. Who is to blame? That's the question. And page 14 is where you find details or possibly answers for this particular question. And that's the last story we can take on the Blueprint newspaper.
And I think our last paper for the day right now is the Punch newspaper, which is our last paper we'll take for today. The Punch newspaper has its own story. I like the way that the Blueprint and the Punch actually moved away from
the politicking and all
that, and just lead from human angle and other stories on the economy and all that. And then this Saturday Punch lead story starts where it says, okay, communities stranded after terrorists destroy police stations, and we have rider that says 700 policemen killed, race stations abandoned, and also have villages turned to vigilantes, fear rise in kidnappings and killings. We also had that story on I think page 3 there, where you need to pick up to find out what this is really
700 is a huge number. I want to believe it's a periodical, not just a
I don't think it's stretched one of
yes.
I don't see it being one of the
alarming number, to be honest.
Yes. Okay. That's it on that story. And above that, or rather let's stick to the low part before we go above the nameplate. We have it says Oke Popo, Lagos community where residents pay heavily for clean water. I'm not even surprised because Lagos have a challenge with clean water.
Even
some
the
parts,
some places they call the islands, the big places, they still have issues with water. I don't know why the Lagos government. I know they've said they're doing a lot, but we need to see them translate that into results because potable water is
very essential.
It's a basic. It's not a too much to ask. It's a basic necessity that the people should have. And away from that story, by the picture story, it says South Africa must return my slain brother's corpse, that is, and a sibling of one of the victims is speaking there.
And also beside that story, it says it breaks my heart watching others go to school, teen with cerebral palsy, speaking there. That story is on
the plight of people with disability.
Yes.
We just hope, of course, we've seen many of them break the barriers, and government at least should be able to give the avenue for people like him to be in school and be able to reach their full potentials. And away from that story, and by the right-hand corner, it says, gunmen kill 13 in Plateau, troops uncover arms factory. And that's one of the stories there on the Punch newspaper Saturday edition. Okay,
so we still have just the nameplate below the nameplate, the bottom plate there. It says Atiku, Amechi, Hayatuddin, Peak ADC, 90 million naira presidential forms.
At least the ADC is trying to do catch up. We saw the APC with that huge chest of billions.
90 million naira. That's a whole lot of money. Well, they know what
of course, we know it's not cheap to be.
It's not cheap to be president.
But this has actually.
But if questions have been raised about the amount of money for forms to pick. If you say the criteria for one to contest a secondary school, what's the person doing to get that kind of money?
And of course, another question I saw a breakdown of the amount of the salaries of office holders, presidency, and all of that. None of them actually takes up to even $1 million naira, basically a basic salary. So someone is saying, if you're paying this person this amount of money and he's spending this huge amount on form, what does that do? What does that say if he gets into office? How does he recoup his money? So that's that. I think I've always had the opinion that our politics is overly monetized, and for us to see positive changes, we need to find a way where money is not at the center of all of it. We need to find other things that we center our politics around aside money. That's my opinion.
Okay. Let's go above that lead story there. And there's a story that I actually said that I paused earlier on and I take the lead story. It says, let me marry my lover before I die. Blind 86-year-old in bitter war with children. And that story is on page 14. Yeah.
Why would they not want him to remarry? I think maybe from I've not seen the details, but I would preempt and say maybe he's someone.
Why are you preempting? Why don't you become married?
They'll say you're 86 and you are visually impaired. Why do you want to get married again? But of course, that's
he
the
needs
reason
attention.
why.
He needs companionship.
That's exactly the reason. He's 86 and he's visually impaired. He needs a companion, like you said.
And as long as the person is willing to be with him.
And able, so leave Grandpa to marry in peace, please. A bit of celebrity story.
That's
entertainment. Yes, it says celebrity boxing fights fans want to see, and we have quite a number of celebrities there: Davido, Wizkid, and a whole lot of them. Well, I don't know who wants to see those fights, but if you want to know, pick up this paper and find details on page 16 of the Saturday Punch newspaper.
Well, Saturday Punch newspaper has given us a lot of stories where we just read through to you, and we hope that with this wrapping up our segment on this by review, we hope you've had a lot of catch up of stories to
and
do.
Been informed.
Not a lot of fun, because we have a lot of papers, and you need to know that there's a whole lot happening around you. You cannot just sit down and watch. Pick up a copy of the papers and know what the day looks like for you and what's happening across Nigeria and for the rest of the world, because we see from economy, from politics, from health, security, telecoms, the challenges we've had is a packed full lineup of stories across the dailies, and well done to every amazing outlet there who's done this amazing job to keep Nigerians and the world informed of what's happening in and around us. Well, that brings us to the size of the newspaper review segment, and we quickly go on at taste and texture. Trust me, we always have something for you to take on a weekend, and for you not going out, and if you want to take it, we're bringing you pap and bean cake, where we call in Nigeria akara.
In Hausa they would say kose.
Kose and cocoa is what we're bringing for you. For who's sitting down, watching at home, feeling very relaxed, this is the perfect meal for you to just take and enjoy. Stay with us as we bring you taste and texture. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. Today we're going to prepare a delicious Nigerian delicacy, and we will be demonstrating it from scratch. Our delicacy on this episode is beans cake and pap. I am your creative chef, Saadatu Garba. Beans cake, popularly known as akara, and pap is one of the traditional breakfast options in a Nigerian household. Akara and pap is a hearty morning meal for most homes because of its light and filling nature. It is a delicacy made from beans, while pap is made from maize. I hope you enjoy the recipe. Ingredients: beans, red bell peppers and scotch bonnets, onions, vegetable oil, salt and water. The ingredients for pap include pap, water, canned or powdered milk, and sugar. To prepare, wash and peel your beans. Add your beans, onions and peppers into the blender. Add a little water and blend till smooth. After blending, transfer into a bowl and use a mixer or a spatula to beat the mixture to make it fluffy. Add some onions to your oil to make it flavorful. Fry your akara in batches until golden brown and transfer to strain the excess oil. To make your pap, put the raw pap into a bowl. Add a little bit of cold water, then mix. Boil your water and quickly add into the mixture while turning to avoid lumps. Add your milk and sugar, and your pap is ready. That's it on today's episode of Taste and Texture, and I hope you will try this recipe on your own. I'll see you again on the next creative recipe. This is Saadatu Garba saying take care of yourself.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
There you have it. Like Mukhtar said, in the northern part here in Nigeria, we call it Kose. And then and cocoa. Cocoa is the path where you need to have that balanced meal. And I was just telling him, I said, if I try this right now, I'm just going to have a wonderful nap.
I'm not going to lie, that's the same thing that will happen to me. I love that for breakfast, but not when I want to be very active.
Yes.
If I want to be relaxed and just feel at home.
And do a staycation like you always like to do.
You know how I do. Staycation with my movie and then find a sleep, a nap later on. That would be the perfect.
When you finish taking such a meal, it gives you that relaxation mindset that it's time to sleep. It's time to shut down from the world and have your me time. That's one meal because it's a combination of protein and you have the starch
Of
part
course,
of
it
it.
gives you energy.
And for you, if you want to add to the cocoa, you put the dairy, that's the milk. And then you put something like honey. Something like sugar.
Just give sugar and the milk. That will be good to go.
And that will be good to go. It's an amazing meal to have. Trust me, you won't want to miss on that kind of meal. And of course, you saw the process. Thank you so much to our chef who will give us that breakdown.
Chef
did an amazing job on the breakdown and the guide to how to take that. And I hope you've taken one or two from that. Please try it for this weekend if you have the time. It's less than how many minutes you can have that ready for you and for family. It's a good meal for the weekend. Trust me, it's a good meal for the weekend where you're not going out, you just want to have a staycation at home. You need to try that, and it will be fun.
It certainly will be fun, especially even the process of making it. Some people, when they make that stuff, the pap especially, they say it doesn't get as thick as they should. But I think with this method I saw, if they employ it properly, I think it will come out better than usual.
You know the amazing thing about the cocoa, let me call it, that's the northern part, the pap, yes, in the English language, but we're teaching you across fields in Nigeria, how we call it. They have the different varieties of it. You have the white corn, you have the millet, different ways of
Some even mix the millet with the corn,
so
it gives you like a hybrid and the taste is very
So the taste is very, very nice. So you need to try that. Try it for breakfast and you won't regret. Trust me, you will call us.
I say thank you.
I say thank you for such suggestion. It was amazing to try it for such engagement. But it's a weekend. I want to make you relax. We've given you food. For those of you who want to exercise and have fun, here's a bit of aerobics of what you should try on a weekend, away from work, you can do this before you go for your party, and then you can dance very well in one way because
after you're eating the food,
you need to shake it off.
You to shake it off. This is the perfect.
But some people prefer to do the exercise before. But if you do that, you have to take a nap, and then your body system will really feel defined and sweet because you've relaxed from every tension and you feel very fresh. When you come out dressed up for your party, trust me,
you'll be good to go. Fit as a fiddle.
And so up next for us is aerobics, and that should give you a guide to what you should try next time you want to go for aerobics. Stay with us.
Asi online, asi online. Boss.
Ukarungani wetu, ukarungani wetu.
Shaya, there we go. Yes. There we go. 4. Yes. Yes. 3. Shuffle, shuffle. 1, 2, 3. Shuffle. 3. We are going to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Shuffle, shuffle. 3. Yes. Shaya. Yes. This is easy. Everybody can do this. Shaya. Yes. Shaya. Over time. 8. 7. 6. 5. One more time. 4.
to have you join us. We experienced a strong weather system that lingered from Thursday night into the early hours of Friday morning, bringing widespread thunderstorms, heavy rainfall, and strong winds in many locations. Now, heading into Saturday, a bit of relaxation in weather activities is expected, especially during the morning hours, although an exiting weather system will affect parts of Niger State, with prospects of morning thunderstorms in the coastal cities of Lagos, Rivers, Bayelsa, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom states. Going into the afternoon and evening hours of the day, these thunderstorms will build once again to affect the southern region of the country, as well as parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, Kaduna, and Taraba states. That's the forecast for Saturday. I am Theodora Itzum. Thank you for watching.
It's good to have you back on Global Morning. I'm sure you've been able to shake off your bits from all the cocoa and bean cake that we gave you, and that's aerobics. I'm sure you've picked up from that, and we look forward to seeing you healthy and looking smart. Well, it's a discussion segment of Global Morning, and we have something amazing to talk to you about, where we'll talk about discussions around national development and also looking at the area of tourism and what potential, how Nigeria has tapped into it, and what we're doing with international national development. Where are we as a country, and where are we headed? What can we achieve more? What can we get more out of tourism in Nigeria and across Africa, of course?
And of course, tourism is a sector that, for me, is oftentimes overlooked. But we've seen many countries who have been able to build an entire sector, an entire economy around tourism. Their major stay of their economy is tourism. And I think Nigeria should also tap into that potential. And that's what's going to be the focus of our conversation today.
Okay, so while we talked about this, while we're looking at this, basically, we're saying that across the world, tourism continues to generate jobs, attract investments, preserve culture, and shape how countries are perceived globally.
And here in Nigeria, many believe that the country possesses enormous tourism potential, like I said, from cultural festivals and historic food sites to music, landscape, all of those things. But despite all this, we've still had a challenging question, which is the fact that is Nigeria truly harnessing the opportunities in the tourism sector?
Well, joining us to speak on this issue, because it's one sector we cannot just throw around, because it cuts across different fields, so we can build up the impact it will have for Nigeria's economy. Joining us this morning is Ambassador Phil Roberts. He's a tourism promoter and the executive director of the Tourism Volunteers Network. It's good to have you join us on the program, Ambassador Roberts.
Thank you so much for having me on the program.
Well, before we came up, we talked about tourism and how far it's doing and how we've seen it. You gave me something very new. I got to know about that. So let's talk about tourism as a sector itself, from your perspective as an expert and a promoter of it. What is it like for Nigeria in terms of tourism?
Okay, so first of all, I want to explain that Nigeria has not been able to tap into tourism fully, because Nigeria is still looking at, every day we keep talking about diversifying the economy. It has become like one of those languages we grew up with. It's like in our lips, but we like to talk the talk instead of walking the walk. We are looking at what we can gain immediately, like Fela call it stomach infrastructure. So it's been a problem. So if you want to make so much growth in any sector, you must have a plan. We've gotten to a stage where Nigeria should look at tourism as a state of emergency. That is where we need to look at now. I was in a TV program some days ago, and we're dissecting the tourism industry as a $116 trillion industry in the world.
Wow, okay. That's a huge one.
Now, if tourism has that as a sector on its own, where is Nigeria? A lot of people do so much in tourism. So most times I like to explain tourism and break it down to a layman's perspective for people to understand what tourism is. Because most times when you talk about tourism, people see tourism as traveling. I want to go and enjoy myself. I want to go and explore. But no, tourism has gone beyond that. You know, tourism is you trying to, and if you're trying to do something that you're trying to discover, that push for you to discover something is already moving you into tourism. That's why we have different types of tourism. We have adventure tourism. We have food tourism, which is gastronomy, agro-tourism, medical tourism, transportation tourism, sports tourism, educational tourism, transportation tourism. We also have the big one, which is what I am promoting now that Nigeria is really lacking, which is infrastructural tourism. So most times I also try to explain to people the difference between a tourism site and a tourism destination. Now, a tourism site is a site that will say, oh, this is a tourism site. It's like a land where you just say, I want to build my house. It's just a land. It's just a site. But when you start developing it, it becomes a destination. So we have tourism destinations and we have tourism sites. So Nigeria is just designed to be a tourism site. We've not moved Nigeria to having tourism destinations. So that's why Nigeria has been lacking. Now, naturally, Nigeria has a major problem of infrastructure. A couple of the countries you travel to, one of the things that makes you enjoy those countries is what? The infrastructure. So without infrastructure in any country, development cannot take place. In tourism, we say government plays 70%. No, government plays 30%, which is creating an enabling environment, while the populace play the remaining 70%. So it's a two-way thing. So tourism is designed to work more on a PPP, private-public partnership. So that is how it works. So it's a two-way thing. If you want tourism to work in your country, the citizens need to be involved. There need to be lots of education, orientation. That is where national orientation also comes in. So if we as a citizens come into the realization that we need tourism to work in Nigeria, tourism will start working. You are watching CNN and you see Visit Dubai. This is Australia. Come enjoy Uganda. You didn't hear them say anything tourism, but they have marketed their destination country. So tourism is the biggest marketing tool of any serious nation. You understand? It's the biggest marketing tool. It's a subtle way of marketing your country. Now, if I visit Dubai now, from the airport, I am spending money. Once I have already booked my flight, that money is going to the Emirates. Number one. I touch ground. Once I touch ground, there's a taxi waiting to pick me. I'm paying for that taxi. While I'm moving into my taxi or moving through the street, I'm buying food, I'm buying drinks, I'm spending money. I'm making calls, I'm fixing internet, Wi-Fi, I'm spending money. I'm going to my room, which is the hotel, I'm spending money. So tourism is the biggest way to drag investment and drag revenue. So until Nigeria understands that, then we will keep continuing on this discussion. Lastly, before I hand over to you, Wike, which is the FCT minister, there's something he did. When he came into Abuja newly, he started a massive drive on infrastructure. You see those bridges he was building, creating roads everywhere. A lot of people were just coming to Abuja just to come and see. We hear that there is a new minister. Wike is building bridge here. Are you serious? Let me go and see. Tourism. So that infrastructure that Wike was already building was dragging people to come and see. And it brings revenue. So imagine those places that has now been opened. There's a flux of money going there. So in every destination that has been created, we have lights, we have road, we have hotels or places for people to live. We even have people selling pure water, akara, and all those things. Those are the benefits of infrastructure in making a tourism site a destination.
Well, amazing thoughts there, because I like that you broke it down for the common man to really understand, because that's the basics. People feel, let me travel, let me go for a vacation, let me go rest in my head. But I think it's high time we move it out from that perspective. And you've talked about the infrastructural part. That's one thing I really wanted to speak to you about, and I'm glad you picked it up from that perspective, because if you go to countries, for instance, you see reasons why you want to go to the country. Aside visiting, when you visit, it gives you a second thought. This looks like a place I can stay, which is destination points. I want to live live here. I would love to have a family
Because you're
here.
comfortable.
Because there's nature as well. There's something to go to on a daily to bring in the revenue for you. All that. So let's compare Nigeria with countries that are thriving tourism sectors. Like you mentioned, they give an instance of some countries where they just tell you this is a destination point where you need to try. What would you say we're not getting right yet? You made an instance of the Minister of the FCT. He did that with the FCT. FCT is Nigeria's capital. Let's talk about states, for instance. What should be the states, from that perspective, that should make Nigeria get it right in terms of tourism?
So a lot of times when I'm live on air, I don't like to go through this part, but my friends in the media, when they invite me, they like to drag me through this part. So what I usually start with my comments is that the problem we're having in Nigerian tourism is the media.
Okay, so where's our fault?
What's the job of the media?
That's why I'm asking you, so you tell the audience, you speak to the authorities on this issue so they can...
So the job of the media is promotion. Like I mentioned, you're watching CNN, you hear this is visit Dubai, visit here. The media is the biggest marketing tool of every nation. You understand? Like I tell people, tourism is the biggest marketing tool of every nation. So in tourism, if you are someone who is into tourism, number one, you must be patriotic. You must be a patriotic volunteer for Nigeria to promote you must love your country unconditionally, because you cannot promote what you don't love.
So let me step in before you go. Do you know that a lot of media houses do documentary promotions of telling? Like I know we do here.
That's why I'm going. So that's why I said.
The Nigerian story.
That's why I said I hate this question, because every time I hit it back on the media,
we get it back to you because we do.
So that's where I'm going.
Okay.
So a lot of times, the reason why I grew in a sharp speed in tourism is because I came into tourism with a lot of creativity. I'm a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
But I told my parents that if I would not do mechanical engineering, anything I would do extra, I must do it as if I am doing mechanical engineering. So I must add that level.
Same passion.
Yeah, the same passion, the same that level of excellence. I started as a musician and as an entertainer and all that, but I didn't know what I was doing was tourism. I'm the president of Rock Music Festival, Rock Music Federation, so I do a lot of rock music concerts and all that. And one day I was approached by the FCT tourism department and they were like, do you know that this thing that you do is tourism?
Okay.
I say, how? They say, because you bring people into Nigeria, foreigners all the time, and you just do your thing, they go. I say, I don't know what is tourism. So they started educating me on what tourism is. They started teaching me, walking me through the process. So media has a lot to do on orientation, on publicity, on promotions. You understand? So you're doing your best, but you need to do more. What I'm saying is that, imagine there is a tourism destination in Nigeria, and most people don't even know how many tourism sites. Let me just start with destination. We don't even know the tourism sites in Nigeria. So I came up with a strategy 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I came up with why is it that we cannot pinpoint tourism sites in Nigeria? I had a meeting with the minister, and even them in the ministry, they do tourism as if it's civil servant work. That is part of the issue. And I came up with a strategy. I was like, I was going to trek from Abuja to Delta State. I called it Tourism Across the Niger. So the Tourism Across the Niger project was designed to be like a handshake with the North and the South. That was during President Buhari. So I came up with that concept, and the IG of police called me and said, what's wrong with you? We heard you want to trek. I mean the IG. I heard you want to trek from Abuja to Delta. Are you a politician? I said no. Because it's like I want to open up the insecurity to let people go. They kidnap me or something. I said no, sir. I am creative about what we're doing, and I know what I'm going to do. And I spoke to him and told him that this is how it's going to be. And they said, okay, if you explain to us more, I said, you will just create unnecessary roadblock on the road. So when I'm coming, your people are already there. I don't want to go with police, but let the police be there. So they had an understanding where all the commissioners of police in every state received me, all the DPOs received me. Now, how did I go creatively? I was putting on the green and white of Nigeria. My costume was green and white. I was carrying a bag. Everything was designed to promote Nigeria. And guess what? All through the states, all through the communities I went through, it was a 30-day trekking.
I can imagine that.
All through the communities I went, I ate free food and I slept in good hotels. Nigerians were most people were like, I saw this guy trekking from Wagalada. I saw this guy in Lokoja. So especially those trailer drivers, you understand? So that was another level of creativity I brought. So even the people that were to hurt me, they were the one giving me food. And that was when I found out that Nigerians love Nigeria. But the thing is that we always wait for the first person to take the step. So then everybody was breaking a record to cook beans, cook rice, do this one. I said, no, I want to break a record to promote Nigeria as a tourism destination, because one of the problems Nigeria was facing is insecurity. Insecurity is a major problem all around the world. There's insecurity in Ukraine, Iran, mention all these countries that they're fighting, but guess what? People are still going for tourism.
Sure. Even the US has its own.
Yeah. So when I was talking about the media promote Nigeria as a theater for insecurity. So imagine you telling people that want to come to Nigeria. A lot of times when I travel abroad, you always travel. When you get into some of those countries, they feel that immediately you get into Nigeria, Boko Haram will kidnap you. Right. So that is how the media has promoted Nigeria as a theater of war. You understand? And don't forget, Nigeria is a place of over 300 million people. So it's a different thing when we share these stories to 300 million people. If only 100 million people promote, if only 1 million people promote it, it has gone viral that Nigeria is a theater of war. So I even came up with a concept to let the media know how tourism should be promoted and all that. I designed a concept called broadcast tourism. Okay. You understand? So if you take your time to study more about broadcast tourism, you will see the role of the media in tourism. So tourism is all about promotion. So the kind of reportage you put online will now be able to tell the people, do you want to come and invest or you should not invest? You visit China all the time. The reason why we have Chinese restaurants everywhere is because of the way the Chinese have sold the Chinese food under cultural diplomacy. I'm a certified Chinese tea master. After that trekking I did, that was how the Chinese took me. And every year I'm in China for different trainings on tourism. So when I speak from a place of authority, telling you that until the media takes its place in promoting Nigeria as a tourism destination, not when I say media, I don't mean Glo TV or one media station, until we all collectively, NBC is also supposed to see how, NBC is doing a whole lot.
National Orientation Agency as well.
Yes, so it's that's why I say until we as in the media, as a body, take it as a responsibility. Anytime we are promoting Nigeria, I'm not telling you not to do your constructive journalism or you understand, but there should always be a place where you should see yourself that you are marketing Nigeria. So that is where we come from national orientation. We have 774 local governments in Nigeria. So what are we doing in those places? Do we have tourism officers or tourism desk?
That you should get all of the information you need to promote.
Yeah, so when I trekked from Abuja to Delta State, my dear, the kind of things I saw, Lokoja alone is a theater for tourism. The Lord Lugard story, how Nigeria started, the conference of Benue and River Niger, where Lord Lugard and his wife then and his girlfriend then, Flora Shaw, stood on the top of Mount Patti to look at the marriage between River Niger and River Benue and the conference and say this is Niger area. The mast the tower that Flora Shaw was using to communicate BBC then to communicate with the BBC then is still there on top of Mount Patti. The chair where Lord Lugard used to sit down and watch the movement of the slave trade.
That's a historic.
It's still there. The first ever bank constructed by Lord Lugard is still there. Where they did the north and south, where they took that agreement is still there. The first ever school built by Bishop Ajayi Crowther is still there. The European what's it called? Cemetery is still there. I can go on and on and on. When Nigeria, the north and south stood in the British, and they now said, okay, this is still there. Moving to Edo State, what I saw alone in Benin. We have in China people traveling from Nigeria to China just to go and see the Great Wall of China. But do you know that the moth of Benin
is even much bigger than the Great Wall of China?
Like they took me to places where they showed me that this is how the Benin Empire built themselves, built a wall around them. A wall, just like in the Bible, say the wall of Jericho. Just like that, how they built themselves to protect themselves outside from people that were invasion and all. It's a lot of all those things, and nobody is telling those stories. You travel from Nigeria to Israel, they tell, or Jerusalem, they say this is where Jesus died. Were you there?
But that's history. That's a tourist.
So tourism is storytelling. Everything they tell you to collect your money, you go and see. So until Nigeria wakes up to that level, we'll keep every day having different discussion on where Nigeria is losing out.
I like the fact that you mentioned, for Mutar Johnson on this, I like the fact that you mentioned the collective responsibility of everybody, because why I threw back at you when you said the media is because the media work with what the National Orientation Agency, for instance, we do in-house, we do public announcements, we create things that talks about what the Nigerian culture is and all those things to come out. But if we have collaborations from agencies, do this and give out to media spaces to put out, because the media has a whole lot to give, and it's multitasking, it's capital.
No, don't worry, let me help you. Don't stress yourself. So let me tell you what they do in advanced class, especially in China. The Chinese have seen that the best way to sell China is through media. Now the Chinese, this is what they do. I've traveled to China a lot of times under the sponsorship of the Chinese government on what they call the Belt and Road Initiative under President Xi Jinping. So the Belt Initiative is countries that China do business with that connect to China through sea. Is called Belt. Those ones that you can drive from road to China is called road. So the president called it the Belt and Road, and there's something also called the FOCAC. FOCAC is Forum for China Africa Cooperation. Now that is where our presidents have been going to collect money. A lot of this intervention and all of that, and a lot of times some of those interventions are also geared towards tourism and cultural development. In Nigeria today, we have something in Zone 5 called the Chinese Cultural Center. So the Chinese Cultural Center is designed to use the Chinese culture, art, and their tourism as a tool for diplomacy to do business with you. So the Chinese Cultural Center is always doing different events to showcase China to you. You come there, you will see Chinese film, Chinese everything, you will eat Chinese food. So they do that all the time to showcase what they do. So in China, the Chinese has taken it as a desperate course to see how they can use culture, their art, their culture, and tourism to promote. You watch Chinese film all the time. Then secondly, for infrastructure, you travel to China, you see, let's say the whole of Maitama, there is a certain kind of building in Maitama. Now what they do is that they work closely with the real estate developers. There's a special kind of funding that they give to them. So you build according to what government has said. This is what government want to do. The media also have interventions. So that is how, when I say the government create the environment,
is interventions.
So that is what they are doing. So until we wake up to that understanding, in Nigeria you hear subsidy, they release the money for subsidy, you ask him where the money goes. So what is destroying Nigeria is corruption. So if the Nigerian government can now wake up and say, okay, because I can tell you, I know that I don't know if there's a budget or there's intervention or there's subsidy for media. Or I don't know what they do. Of course, we have NTA. NTA has been there for over how many years? So until the government decides to have an intervention on all media houses, they can do it. Let media houses know that this is what we want to do going forward. Promoting Nigeria as a tourism destination. This is the money for research. This is the money for how the story should be. Until then, the media will just keep working in silos. It's not done. So that's why I designed a project called Infrastructural Tourism. So until all of them in NPC, all of them in National Orientation understand that this is the way to go, that the media of any country is the biggest marketing and orientation tool. Until then, the intervention we are looking for will be struggling on it.
Well, Musa has something.
You said quite a lot about the media, but I'd like for us to still return to Nigeria here. We've seen that we have these potentials. You've talked about the places you visited. Why haven't we been able to turn these potentials to results? What is, if you're going to pinpoint maybe a factor or two rather than having these many factors, what would you think is the greatest challenge?
Infrastructure. I don't want to talk about the orientation because the orientation is there. The orientation is there. So I've stopped talking about the problems. I designed how do we make it work? So that has been my promotion. So I'm doing something in September. Every 27th of September every year is International Tourism Day. So I'm now focusing on infrastructural tourism. So we did something called the National Infrastructural Tourism Development Summit, which is going to be holding on the 24th of September in combination of World Tourism Day, so that Nigeria can look at infrastructure as a case of emergency. Because if you solve problem of infrastructure, everybody in Nigeria will not have problem. Because if solving infrastructural problem helps you, even in the media, most times I hear, oh, generator, diesel, power is a major problem. So if we have this issue of infrastructure solved, a lot of all these things will be. People travel, like I mentioned about Wiki, people travel to Abuja just to come and see those bridges and say, is it true? We've had how many ministers of FCT, but what this guy is doing. So if Nigeria can now work on infrastructure, then leave national orientation and the other ones to be handling issue of orientation and marketing. If Nigeria can decide to take infrastructure very serious, we have urban and regional planners, we have all these things, and you see every minister will come and say, this is a green area, why did they build this here? If the plan can be followed and we take infrastructure seriously, people will just start coming to Nigeria. So if you have tried this one, we have been struggling with orientation, because orientation is the first one. Since we have been struggling with orientation and it's not working, everybody has been complaining about infrastructure for years. So why don't we focus on infrastructure and see if we don't? So let's stop doing something that is not working and look for a new one to solve all problems.
I know you said Nigeria should be painted in the positive light, which is, I agree with you, but we also have our challenges. And insecurity is one of these challenges.
Insecurity is a challenge everywhere in the world.
Yes, I know, but ours is that's one of the reasons for me that has repelled tourism. So if you're solving infrastructure and not putting this in place, how would that find the balance?
Security tourism is a problem of the world. We travel from our police, army, and all of that. They travel from Nigeria to a couple of other countries to go for training. You understand? They go to Israel. They go, and don't forget, some of all those countries too travel to Nigeria
for training.
For security tourism, to learn all of those things. So it's something that is you understand. So what I keep telling people is that I keep using Ukraine. Most times I'm in the embassy and I'm seeing somebody say he wants to go to Ukraine to study. I say, do you know that they are fighting there? He said, where they go, they know they fight for them.
So that's my perception.
You see, some months ago it was trending about Africans that were in the front line.
Yes,
Africans that were recruited. They knew that they was fighting there and they were going. I give you an instance. People are going through the Sahara Desert, through the Mediterranean Sea to travel to Europe. They know they will die on the road, but they are still going. You understand? They know they will die.
Taking their chances.
They will still go. Now, why are they going there? Do you think that Europe is more better than Nigeria? No. But because of the way those guys have promoted it, that is why they are telling them that snake they here, Nigeria say we will still go. So that's how I'm explaining to you that insecurity is not a problem in Nigeria. Even though we know that it's something we need to work on. I was reading something on the news the other day, and I was hearing the citizens of Iran saying that they prefer to die than for Donald Trump. I'm not talking about the army. The citizens say instead of Donald Trump to come and kill, they prefer to die. You understand? So one Igbo guy was saying, he's having flight issues, or he's supposed to travel to Iran because of his business. I said, my guy, they are fighting. You know, I'm always in the diplomatic circle, so I understand all of it. So I can tell you that insecurity is a problem and it's not a problem. The only issue we have in Nigeria is that we have marketed our own insecurity in a way that immediately you enter Nigeria, they feel that Boko Haram has kidnapped you. So most times I try to explain to them that where those guys are manifesting is inside bush. You understand? So until we in media take this issue of broadcast, if Global TV can take over this summit from me for a broadcast tourism summit, I will be so happy. Because we need a serious orientation summit, like a conference for broadcast tourism, for media people to understand that there is a direction in your marketing. Because anything you're doing, you are looking at, does this your news bring revenue to the country? It must also be looking at that. Does it bring people to the country, or you just want to be a celebrity newscaster that they know that is a troublemaker?
Okay, so let's. I like the fact that you put this, and there's always a partnership with the media across
Yeah.
fields and all that. Do you think Nigerians themselves sometimes underestimate the beauty and tourism of Nigeria in terms of value within the country itself? Because just like you mentioned, the states you went across, you saw the different things, the aspects.
You don't tend to appreciate them as Nigerians have.
We don't tend to, because I see Nigerians seem to want to travel out a lot to go and see what other countries have, and just a few of us
that want to
stay within. Because, for instance, I give instance like in Ogun State, they have theirs. You know, they have theirs in Cross River, also Bauchi. We have Yankari and all that. How? That's why I asked you earlier. I said around the states themselves. What is the sustainability plan of this tourism sites before we even turn to destination, just like you mentioned? Because if you have the proper infrastructure, the maintenance culture of those infrastructures on ground, it gives an edge that will value the beauty and the tourism sites we have compared to what we want to see outside.
I'll go back to you, you're a traveler. So let me tell you. So this is it. You see, one beautiful thing about tourism that it's practical. You get into a country like Dubai or Rwanda or whatever, and the first thing you see people meeting you at the airport,
and they're hugging you.
They are hugging you. They welcome you. The next thing you are telling them is that they will give you a form to fill, or they are showcasing one tourism destination for
where you can go say.
So they are like, when you feel, we can take you to this place to go and relax yourself and all. In China and some of all these countries, immediately you finish what you are doing, they plan summits, they plan programs. After they are done,
we have such a scenery here in
Nigeria. They'll take you for tourism, right? Because they will make sure that money you came with, you finish it
in their country.
That's what they do. But now, in Nigeria, you come into Nigeria, even the Uber driver that is carrying you is telling you, say, no be small thing, no, my guy, this is our country, get us a deal. That's where I'm going.
Yes.
Yeah. So imagine you as a young boy in a village in Ogbomosho, and there is this water in your village that during the war in 578 BC,
yes,
this water was the water that your ancestors used to drink, and it was what was keeping them free from sickness. In Kogi State, there was a place I visited in Kogi State where the queen of, I've forgotten her name, the queen was buried alive in Kogi State to save their community from being harvested by the Portuguese in those days or something. So that place, the fish that comes out from that river, no matter how you cook the fish, it will never get done. The sites where the king used his daughter, the princess, as that sacrifice, the place is still there. It's still there like that. Now imagine I am somebody from that Kogi State, from that community, and I promote that on social media, and I tell this story. Tourism is all about storytelling. And I tell this story, and I drag people into my community, and every day I am making $100 or $10. Let me just use $10. So imagine if me I'm making $10 a day, and I'm making $70 a week. 70 times 4 weeks is how much? Now, the problem is that in Nigeria, we are not creative a lot of times. We claim that we are creative. So imagine if we now see tourism as a business. Now, as a young person from Kogi State, I look at that thing and create the story and now become a tour guide. And people are coming. Will I be complaining that there's no job? I will be making more money from just that site. Imagine how many sites like that. I don't want to call it destination because we've not gotten those destinations. So imagine how many young people can now have that orientation. If Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy will work with national orientation to let Nigerians know that there is serious money in tour guiding.
There is actually.
And tell them how much they can be making. Do you know that our youth will stop going to TikTok to do all those things that they are doing? They will not convert those their page, promoting those destinations and be making money.
True. But one thing about talking about,
do you know how many people that flew into Lagos to go and watch Portable and Kata Ife fighting? That is sports tourism.
Yes.
You understand? Somebody created that concept and he has made money. So that is what tourism is all about. People travel from outside Nigeria. I flew in from China. I was supposed to come into Abuja. I stayed in Lagos. Yes. I just wanted to watch it and come. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. So national orientation needs to have a state of emergency and work closely with the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and work with the Ministry of Trade and Investment to see tourism as a serious trading business.
And promote the sector. And also
in Ministry of Trade and Investment, they have a desk, the Chinese desk there. And most times I go there and see what they do is only they go for when the Chinese having program and free trainings. Those are, I say this is not what it's supposed to look like. Learn from these guys. In China, you see this destination is called tourism site. They have you have 5-star hotels. In China, you have 5-star tourism site, 3-star tourism. The government pays you to make that place that tourism site. So imagine if government is paying you or giving you an award in maintaining that site. You make so you take it as a serious business. In Nigeria, we have something called FTAN, Federation of Tourism Association of Nigeria. And it's supposed to be the private sector that is pushing tourism, making the ministry to sit on their. But what is happening?
Okay, so I like the fact that you said the private sector is also moving to. I think it's heightened, just like you mentioned the PPP.
Yeah,
that's one great avenue where we need to move up a bit, because, like you said, this is storytelling. This is developmental, you know. And then in Nigeria, I was traveling and I see that, for instance, Ethiopia. Their major source of revenue is the airlines. Travels, that's and
coffee.
And coffee, yes, as well. So tourism. So that's one major thing they do. You know, traveling from Nigeria, they will ensure you stop in Addis Ababa.
Oh yeah.
That's one point. And then for some people they rest there.
They will keep
the layovers. They give you 5 hours. And 5 hours. What do you do in 5 hours? You need to shop.
You
need to spend money.
That they deceive you with visa free stuff.
That's bringing revenue into the country.
Yeah.
You know. So when I ask the questions about, I like the fact that you mentioned the Ministry of Tourism. That's where and Trade and Investment, where they need to look at all of these avenues where private partnership. Okay. For instance, you are a promoter, a tourism promoter now. What's the relationship you have with this ministry and agencies?
And they're talking about the ministry. I know the Minister of Culture and Tourism, Hannatu Musa. I've seen a lot of initiatives there. So why are we not seeing those initiatives? Maybe they are. You tell us why? Because I've seen them have go a lot of travels outside Nigeria, saying they are going to bring collaborations.
So let me help you. Don't waste your time. So let me bring it back home here.
Yeah.
You invited me for this discussion, and you've been following up on me, right? Now I came over here for this fantastic discussion, and you refused to broadcast it. Haven't we wasted our time? So that's what they've been doing.
Okay,
so there's a lot of talking, there is no action. So when I came into tourism, because I want to use action to deliver. I'm not in Nigeria. There's so many talk shop. You attend different seminars, trade conference. At the end of the day, is
implementation of this?
No implementation. So I've tried as much as when I want to do something in tourism. They know me that if I want to do, I don't talk. They say, no, let Firabot tell you say you won't do this thing because you don't do and finish. I came up that we were just discussing in the office. I said, how do we create a robust system that will shake the tourism industry? And I said, I'm going to trek. Everybody was like, trek, and I trekked. Last year we came. I said, okay, we trekked 2 years ago. This year again, we're not going to trek. Let's do something different. I said, I'm going to drive from Nigeria to Ethiopia. I don't know if you saw it on the news. I drove from Nigeria but I didn't get to Ethiopia. I was stopped in Cameroon because of the Paul Biya's issue and all that. So I came back to Nigeria. Guess what? This year, I'm already working with the AU. That journey gave me an appointment in the African Union, Pan-African Union, whatever. Because they saw that this guy is not talking, he's doing the action. So I got an appointment as the Director for Tourism and Multilateral Relationship in the Pan-African AU agenda. So now this year, I am driving from Nigeria finally to Ethiopia. Finally. So that's what I'm saying. If we start a mandate, or we come up with a decision that if we say this thing, we must do it, that will solve the problem. So the minister is traveling. She's going to do a lot of things. What you ask yourself, what is the M&E? What are we doing to use what she has gone to open? Is there a strategy, or is there people that their job is to follow up? You know, the follow-up mechanism is the biggest form of business.
Implementation.
So if you now go and discuss all these things, blah blah blah, and you come back, is there an implementation strategy? If there is no movement to achieve those things, you should stop traveling. Because a lot of times people in government just travel for Esta code.
How do you do tourism without traveling?
So that's what I'm trying to explain. So let me explain to you. When I came in, I explained to you that tourism is not traveling.
It's not.
A lot of people see tourism and traveling and want to go. There's something called marine tourism and blue economy.
Definitely.
The water ecosystem is a major investment on itself. In the water, that's why they call it the blue economy. In the water, we have the shipping. You stay by the beach side. There's fish. There's aquaculture. All those things is serious ecosystem which they now coin the blue economy, and that is also has to do with marine tourism.
Yes.
So there is not to travel is not the problem, but you ask yourself, what are you traveling for? When I came into tourism, I came with a creative mindset. So anything I'm doing in tourism, I try to be creative enough to know that any part of my life that I'm spending in tourism should be able to give me result. If I'm not making money in tourism, why should I stay in tourism? You understand? I went to school. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm from the Niger Delta. I have a lot of things I'm doing: businesses, entertainment, consultancy. Then I'm holding tourism. So if tourism does not give me money, why am I staying in tourism? So if we have a system where the government is not seeing tourism as a viable business, why keep traveling? We made a very big mistake in this country when Mr. President came in newly, he came up with an idea of having a minister for tourism. The first time in Nigeria that has ever been done. We had this minister focused on tourism because Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Blue Economy were the two ministries he introduced. And we celebrated it. We said, we've gotten a government that has seen tourism as a potential. But guess what? After some years, he removed the Minister of Tourism and now carried Ministry of Tourism into one ministry. It now became a Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative. The creative economy itself is an industry of a lot of creative people that even some of them, their creativity makes them like it's as if they want to go crazy. Then you now put it under one woman. Do you know that vision of whatever Mr. President did spoiled everything about tourism? Okay, so until we now see tourism as a business on its own, even though the creative industry, the culture is also part of it, but until you see tourism as a state of emergency, other ones will not fly. Do you know why? Because the tourism there is the marketing tool for the arts, for the culture, and the creative economy.
That gives it like the bedrock, just like you mentioned. For me, that's like the foundation. Yeah. Because just like you mentioned, it's good enough we see people in different agencies having to travel on tours, which gives them avenue to also take Nigerians on such tourism sites, because like you mentioned, we have sites but yet to get to a destination. And then on socials as well, we've seen where there are promotion for people to travel and experience the sites and see what the sites can offer. And also I've seen promoters on socials who also promote some parts of Nigeria that have the tourist sites for people to come into Nigeria to see. I traveled, and then I know someone was asking me what exactly is in Nigeria that we come on, and I was giving instances. But I want to show to you, have traveled more, you're the promoter. Do we have the safari sites here in Nigeria that you think people who are into the natural wild kind of mindset like will come to want to see wildlife and all that?
Okay, so
let's talk about that part.
So that one makes me happy because because when I was trekking from Abuja to Delta State, I had a meeting with the Controller General of the Conservator General of Nigeria.
I know we have that.
Who is the Conservator General of he controls the Nigeria National Park. You know, there's something called Nigeria National Park. So the job of the Nigeria National Park is to conserve those wildlife, rare species, and all of that. So they have different places. Do you know that there's a gorilla sanctuary in Cross River State? Okay. Do you know that there are elephants in Cross River State? There are also elephants in Benin, in Edo State, sorry. You understand? So I had a meeting with them. I was like, how many national parks do we have in Nigeria? They said, we don't really have. I think they had about 15 or something.
They can't count. It's not as much.
You understand? So the reason why the national park is struggling, you talk about the safari, Nigeria. Now, United Nations did something and they took them from Abuja to Yankari Game Reserve to see how they can develop it and all of that. There's something called in the United Nations, there's something we call heritage sites. So they're trying to have more heritage. China has about 3,000 something heritage sites. You ask yourself, how many does Nigeria have?
That's why I asked you.
We have potentials because I remember when you said you traveled to these various destinations.
Yes.
You've seen monuments.
Of course. So the issue we have, the issue we have is that number one, the national park is lacking so much of funding. National park is lacking so much of attention. In fact, when I came back, they made me an ambassador of national park because of the way I showcased national park. Now, guess what? When I visited national park in China, it was like the one our own here is like nursery school.
Of course, that's why I asked you.
You understand? So until
challenges need to be fixed.
Yeah. So until, because these guys, they have so much they want to do, but they are also stranded because there is no publicity.
So who is supposed to assist?
So I hate to talk about funding because I hate to tell people that anything you want to do in life is not funding. You understand? Just have the will to do it. Then you have friends and family come together to help you, support you. Then you will now have that one person who is a noisemaker and a promoter, which is the media. So imagine if Nigeria has a big business understanding with the media for promoting the national park. So you understand? So no matter what national park is doing, if they don't have visibility, we will not have.
We can't get.
So there's so many things in Nigeria that is not being promoted. You understand? So I tell people that tourism can never thrive in Nigeria until Nigeria looks at broadcast tourism as a major to work closely with the media to promote Nigeria as a tourism destination. Then it will never happen. So the national park is there. They have been struggling to see what they can. We have about, I think they're opening more sites, but the main thing is that now this is what happens if you visit the national park. Is a world on its own. You understand? That ecosystem, everything is fresh. Yes. They don't kill the animals. They don't cut down trees. Everything. Those rare species for medicines and all of that, all of those things are still there. So imagine if you are in that kind of ecosystem, what will make you want sick?
You know,
another aspect before you continue, because I'd like us to look at the population, our young people, basically, because Nigeria has over 70% youthful population. So how are we able to leverage on this teeming youth to promote tourism? Because I've not really seen a lot of, because we have lots of restive youth, and I believe if we use tourism as a tool, we would have a solution. So how do we do that as a country?
So how do we do that? The first thing that we need to do is what we've started with this discussion. You understand? So no matter how rice is sweet, if you don't explain to people that rice is sweet and they taste it, they will not know that rice is sweet. So it still goes back to the media. You understand? So we need to design an orientation strategy to show them that tourism is another world of investment. Tourism is a bigger money spinner.
It is actually.
You understand? I tell people we focus more on oil or crude oil. Do you know that if Nigeria takes tourism serious and we now use tourism to package our oil, do you know that they will buy our oil more than all these other ones? Anything you use marketing, the way somebody was telling me that Igbo people can market wheelchair to you and you will buy. I think that's the stocker. They will market wheelchair, your leg, nothing to your leg, but the way they will market wheelchair for you, you will buy it.
We have the potential, we have the creative mind.
So the young people are there. It's because of we've not told them how this works. I used to tell a lot of, when I speak in forums, I'd say these young people in Nigeria, they are just there. They don't. Most of them don't know where they are going. It's in those days that they say Nigerian youths, like you saw when Buhari came out and said lazy Nigerian youths, they wanted to fry him. But these Nigerian youths that we have now, if you don't tell them where to go, somebody will come and tell them where to go. And if that person tell them where to go, some of us will not sleep in the night. That is what Boko Haram is doing. So until Nigeria works with a national orientation agency to work with the media on a strategic orientation program to let Nigerian youths know that there is no need sitting at home complaining that you don't have money, you don't have job. You can make money through tourism. Imagine you pick a very beautiful site like she was saying, and the only thing you do is to promote it on TikTok. People will be coming to your channel to do, wow, which place is this? You understand? So if that is the only thing you are doing, you are making money. Not people will now call you to say, okay, this place that you promoted on your channel or on your status, can I see it? You say, oh, if you want to see it, the place is in so place in Nigeria. This is how much you will now design what we call a tour package. So in that tour package, their flight is there, their hotel is there, everything that has to do it. So let's say everything that you will spend to visit that place is 500,000 naira. You for administration, you put extra 300,000 naira. my brother, you are making 300,000 as a young person. Lastly, one of the things I normally tell people is that Nigerians are not patriotic enough. So to do tourism, you must be patriotic. I hear people say, why should I promote Nigeria? What has Nigeria done for me?
Okay, so let me answer this question, because we go to countries just like we talked about earlier, where people embrace you and say you're Nigeria. We're seen as a big brother Africa, but like you also look at, we have the deficit of infrastructure, proper infrastructure in places that should drive people. And you talked about patriotism. Nigerians are challenged in some mindset in terms of leadership. They feel the leadership have failed them in certain ways, so they feel angered even from the airports. Let's give an instance. When you travel out, you see the reception you get. When you come back home, what's the reception you get when you get back home?
Okay, let me start.
I'm trying to back to you.
Yes.
What's the reception? How do you feel when you get compared to countries when you visit? At your return, the first impression at the airport. I'm talking about patriotism.
Yes.
When you get back home to Nigeria, and then what's the reception you get from there?
So going back there, you watched on the news. You guys are always news people, so you watch every time there is always gunshot in US.
Yes, there are gunshots.
A lot of the last one they wanted to. Donald Trump was holding a meeting. Somebody
was a gunshot.
Yeah, but US is designed to be the world power. So we have a lot of unpatriotic people in US, but a lot of Nigerians are still struggling to go to the US. So that is not the problem. So in Nigeria, we try to see before they used to say, "Na my mama's soup sweet pass," but in Nigeria, in this generation, it's not like that again.
So what do you think is the major cost to all? Because I'm looking at the part where you said
the major cost is the people.
We know
the people.
Which people exactly?
Sometimes hinges on it's conditional. You give me, I give you in return. So like you said, what
triggers the mindset of people not to feel they should promote it?
What triggers the mindset is that, number one, you are in US. You see, every US man, he has respect for the flag. That's number one. So a wicked person is a wicked person. If you like, give him $250 million. Until going back, the people in charge of orientation needs to have orientation, National Orientation Agency. They need to explain and come with different creative ideas to help Nigerians to be orientated. It's like taking somebody who is already mad. You take them to rehabilitation. So where we are now is rehab.
Okay.
We are in an emergency situation where we have to. People have positioned themselves that the only thing they will do is to go and collect rice on election day. How do you help that kind of person?
That's the mindset. That's why I asked the mindset of people.
I don't want. We've run out of time. I will share my story as a Niger Delta boy.
No, you have. I'll give you 5 minutes.
So let me explain. Okay, very quick. So while growing up, I'm from the Niger Delta. Delta
I'm also from Niger Delta.
So while you understand. So while growing up, we used to go to the village. In my grandmother's kitchen, there is a pipe that passes through there. And we didn't know that pipe is the crude oil that Nigeria has been taken from. And while I'm going to be very fast. So while I went to where I grew up, we have a lot of oil companies in my community. And I went there to say I need a job. They said they cannot give me job. Why? Because I am not educated. I like the way I see the mechanical engineers, the way they dress in the oil company and all that. And I said, okay, I went to school to study mechanical engineering. My father is a civil engineer. He works with Shell as a contractor and all that. So I wanted to study mechanical engineering because I want to work in an oil company as an engineer. I graduated from Anambra State University. I used music to sponsor myself and all that. I came back, give me work. Shell and Mobil with Chevron refused to give me work. Why? They said I don't have experience. Now, fortunately or unfortunately for me, that was when militancy was now growing in the Niger Delta. When Obasanjo came to do his campaign for third term, and he told us that the crude oil that we see in Nigeria, in Niger Delta, is what is powering Abuja. If you see those beautiful roads. So that was when people in the Niger Delta say, oh, so now this thing 9 days help Nigeria. That was part of the way we started. So those of us who were graduates, we now went to militancy by mistake or by agitation. So at the end of the day, we lost a lot of friends, a lot of brothers in different gun battles and all that. But God saved people like us, because when amnesty came, a lot of us that were educated understood what amnesty was. The ones who were not educated refused because they said, "Nala, they won't catch us." So some of us accepted amnesty. I came to Abuja, had the first handshake with President Yar'Adua, where the first set before he died. Now, the orientation that were given to us, because some of us had already seen blood, because we're gone, we're fighters and all of that. Inside the creek, we had to be de-radicalized through the amnesty program. And at the end of the day, what we were taught in that place, I took it back to the Niger Delta. I started using entertainment. I looked at myself, and one of the things I was able to understand is that I am gifted. I am an entertainer. I can sing. I can play the keyboard. I designed a creative way of marketing my music, and I started playing different shows, barriers. I was now making money. So I was not telling a lot of other people that enough of shooting gun. We can have discussion on the dialogue. That was what they were teaching us. Instead of using gun, let us now sit on the table. So that was what I was now teaching. A lot of people who saw that we were giving amnesty and we were not doing well, they started receiving amnesty. Okay. So that's the orientation and so until taking this back to the Nigerian system of tourism, if Ministry of National Heritage Agency now start to rebrand the minds of these young people to understand that you can be patriotic to your country and you will still make money, because anybody who sees a solution, who sees a problem and finds a solution must make money. So for you to be patriotic must come from you. So if you are not patriotic, if you don't love your father, you can never love your father. So for people to love their fatherland, which is Nigeria, that is the work of National Orientation Agency.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. It's good that we have this kind of mindset, and until, like I always say, until the mindset is changed, until we change our attitude to things, we can never get it right. And I like the fact that you talk about action. I always emphasize about implementation, actionable work. That is where we can get it right. Not talking all the time. Talk is cheap. We can never get it. Thank you so much for your time. Well, it's been a very interesting and insightful conversation. We've been speaking with Ambassador Phil Roberts, tourism promoter and executive director of the Tourism Volunteers Network, discussing the opportunities and realities surrounding tourism developments in Nigeria.
And one thing is clear from that conversation is the fact that tourism is more than just recreation. It involves our culture, our identity, business and storytelling, and it's something that we can use to develop our nation, Nigeria.
Well, once again, very big thank you so much to our guest. He's done justice. If I give you time, I'm sure we're going to talk about next class.
Tourism is marketer.
No, of course, we need to. And also, like you said, the broadcast space promoting, we look forward to seeing. Of course, we can start the collaboration.
Broadcast tourism summits of the conference. We can do that together.
We'll discuss that in behind the cameras. Thank you so much for your time. It was an amazing conversation. Well, that brings us to the size of Global Morning today. We've had a whole lot. I'm sure you also enjoyed our package with us this Saturday, Mutar.
Most definitely. It was a pleasant time, and I know our audience share the same sentiment.
Well, this is where we call it a wrap on the program. We hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Don't forget what we asked you to get for food to help you relax and also help you have a wonderful weekend.
The conversation has been very insightful, and that food is going to come in handy behind the cameras, of course.
All right, I am Anita Patrick, and it's been amazing.
Kasim. Thank you very much.
All right, bye for now.